Welcome to Association Chat, a podcast devoted to talking about all things associations, nonprofits, and the future for building communities. In a world where there's an association for everything, that gives us a lot to talk about. So let's get started with your host, Kiki L'Italien. Today, I am really excited to actually dig in a little bit deeper into Neen James and her latest book. But before we get started, I want to say that support for this show comes from Boulder Strategic Consulting. You can drive your business strategy with a digital plan that unites and engages your team. Boulder Strategic Consulting can bridge the gap between your technology and marketing departments. You need insights to inspire business transformation, don't you? Don't you? Yes. Boulder will empower you to thrive in a digital world. You don't have to stress out about your digital transformation projects anymore. Let Boulder Strategic Consulting come in and help you and your team reach success. Find out more at boulderstrategy.com. That's BOLDR strategy.com. Our guest today is Neen James. Neen is the author of Folding Time and Attention Pays, the book I have right here. She's been named one of the top 30 leadership speakers by Global Guru several years in a row because of her work with companies like Viacom, Comcast, and Abbot Pharmaceuticals, among many others. She has boundless energy. I can attest to this from seeing her in action in person. Boundless energy. She's quick-witted, always offers powerful strategies for paying attention to what matters so you can get more done and create more significant moments at work and at home. So Neen James, welcome to the show.
G'day, what a treat it is to serve the amazing people that watch and listen to this phenomenal resource. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. I tell you what, I have been such a long-time fan of the work that you do and seeing you in action. I know that I shared this on a couple of my social media posts leading up to our discussion today, but you are truly, truly one of the best speakers I have ever seen in action. And then getting to know you behind the scenes, seeing you in the way that you interact with people, it's remarkable. It's remarkable because you're genuine, you're authentic, you're smart, all of these things that really led me to being super excited to talk to you today. And so I want to tell everyone, I interview a lot of different people who have books and speakers and coaches and, consultants. And Neen, I just have to say that you've shared a lot of really valuable information in this book of yours, Attention Pays.
Thank you. You don't have to read my book, but please go buy it. That would be that would be amazing. What people are not hearing, though, Kiki, is that you were on stage with me in front of hundreds of people. So I want to add a little bit to this to tell you, for those of you who are listening, so hi to the people who are joining us as well in the chat, that I just asked the audience, a ballroom full of hundreds of people, would someone volunteer? And up bounds this beautiful woman who had met. Obviously, we had connected before, but I hadn't asked you to do it. I hadn't told you you were going to do it. I literally just asked for a volunteer. And not only did you do that, you bounded onto the stage looking so glamorous in your red lipstick and your red jacket. You answered my questions. You had a great metaphor. You totally delighted the crowd. We had so much fun. What you don't know about me from the way that I'm sitting is I am 4'10" and a half. And you are significantly different in size.
I'm very tall.
It was so much fun. And hey, I had heels on too.
I know. But yes.
But for people who are listening to this, the reason that I think this is really important to share is what you demonstrated in that moment is how powerfully you already pay attention. So you paid attention to the conversation we'd had the evening before. You paid attention to an opportunity to jump up. You had no idea what you were volunteering for. So I feel like you demonstrate so many of the things that you encourage your listeners to do as well. Whether it's inside the association world or whether it's outside, the things that you share are beneficial for people all over. So I've recommended the podcast outside of the industries as well because I think that's so powerful. So let's get into some actual practical advice and the love fest can be finished. But I am delighted to serve. I can't wait to get to know some of your listeners even more. If there's ways I can serve you, just let me know how.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So, and I see some names that I know. I see Adrian, I see Anne over here. And so, everyone, if you have a question as we go along, I want to encourage you to go ahead and ask it, because both Neen and I are very conversational and open to different questions and ideas. And that's one of the benefits that you get from being able to participate live. Those people listening later don't get a chance to ask this directly. So there you have it. Neen, I am going to share one more story briefly before I jump in, because it leads into a question. And that is to actually share about the first time that I had a chance to actually meet you in person. And we were at a conference reception. A circle of us were standing together talking. And so you guys, everyone who's watching right now, everyone who's listening later, I saw Neen's eyes wander over to a man standing by himself over to the side, and she excused herself. You excused yourself, Neen, to go over, and you talked to him, and you introduced yourself. He seemed surprised, and before long, he was coming over and joining our group. And he was almost apologetic when he came over, because he was saying, oh, I'm here with my wife. In a way, he was telling us, I can't do anything for you. And Neen didn't care. She didn't care. She's like, this isn't transactional. We're building relationships, right? And so, so she went ahead and talked with him and asked him questions, and we all got to talking. And wouldn't you know that he definitely did have some people who were in connection with other people who were standing right there in that circle. And what I thought when I looked over at you, Neen, when I thought at that moment was, who is this woman? Because you were truly engaged, you were interested no matter what. And I thought, is she for real? Is she for real? And you really are. You really wanted to bring everyone in. And when I read this book, same concept. It's paying attention. It's paying attention to people and really listening, really paying attention to your surroundings. And I have to say that I know that you practice what you preach. So how did you get interested in the power of paying attention? How did you learn about this so that you knew it was something that you needed to invest more time in?
I think that there's multiple opportunities that I've had across the years to be able to understand the value of attention. Let's take our situation at that conference we're in. I always believe that you need to act as the host or the hostess, no matter where you are, whether it's at a networking event, in your own home, but you want everyone to feel like they're part of the conversation. And that's always been important to me. And so I think I had that demonstrated to me. My mom is such a social butterfly, so she could walk into a room and everyone loves her. And she demonstrated that from such an early age. I saw the power of connecting people. So part of what you saw demonstrated is I always believe that we always need to step back. And what I mean by that is if you're in a circle, if everyone just took a step back, we can include everybody in a semicircle rather than a closed circle. The gentleman who was there just waiting for his wife to finish whatever she had to do, no, he wasn't associated with the conference, but he's a human being who deserves our attention like everyone else. And I also think that I want to always make sure people feel included. And so one of my core values is inclusion of every kind. And so that to me is just paying attention to the conversation that I was participating in, but also being able to have that outside vision that goes, hold on a second, this person's all by themselves. Maybe they want to be by themselves, which is why I asked him, would you like to be included in our conversation, etc. We'd love to get to know you a little bit more. I really don't care what people's titles are. I don't care where they're from. I don't care what their experience is. I don't care. But they're a human being first. And that's the thing. So I don't know if you've ever been at a networking event and someone looks at your name tag and then they see your company name or whatever and they're like, oh, they're not very valuable. And then off they go. Or they look over your shoulder. Makes me crazy. So I believe in this concept of listening with intention. So let me tell you where I learned the power of that. So I was sitting in my neighbor's house. Her name's Eileen. She and I were just trying to have a cup of coffee. She has a 5-year-old.
Mhm.
And the 5-year-old just kept inserting himself into the conversation, as only 5-year-olds will. And he and I were having a very heated debate. And we were debating who is cooler. Is it Batman or is it Superman? Now, clearly it's Batman, but he was in his little Superman costume. So I'm debating with a 5-year-old. Anyway, he kept asking me all these questions. And he would say, like, Neen, do you want to play outside or in? Oh, I don't know, outside. Cats or dogs? I mean, just the craziest questions. He got so frustrated with me, Kiki, because he thought I wasn't listening. He got so mad and he said, Neen, you're not listening to me. He got even madder. He jumped into my lap. He grabbed my face in his tiny little hands. He turned it towards him and he said this, Neen, listen with your eyes. Huh.
Wow.
The power of a 5-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So the power of attention, I was reminded by my little friend Donovan. And it really made me think about, we don't just listen with our ears, we listen with our eyes, we listen with our heart, we listen with our soul, right? And so I think one of the key elements of attention, which is really about connection, right? That's all it is. And humans all want to connect. It's what we want. My mission is to make sure everyone feels seen and heard. And I'll do whatever I can to make sure people feel seen and that they feel heard. So the book is based on that premise. And I think, Kiki, I think if people are writing things down, there's really 3 ways we pay attention. And the first way we pay attention is personal attention, which is who deserves your attention? Well, for me, that's kind of most people, right? But we have to get very clear about that, because if we're running an association, our members deserve our attention. If we're running a team, our team deserves our attention. When we get home from work, the people that we share our lives with are our furry babies. They deserve our attention. So the first thing is personal attention. That's who deserves your attention. That's about being thoughtful and exploring ways to do that. The second way we pay attention is professional attention. This is what deserves your attention. This is really about being so clear and focused that you're being your most productive. So the key to professional attention is being productive. I know we have thousands of things on our list, but is our list correct? Right? And so when we think about this as associations, we have constant desire to drive member value, to be offering different benefits, to communicate about events, to make sure we organize phenomenal engagement and education for them, as well as entertainment. And so we have to get really focused on what is going to help our members be more productive. What do we need to do to be more productive? And then the third way we pay attention is global attention. Global attention is all about how are you paying attention in the world? And this is truly about being responsible. It's truly about being thoughtful and a contributor. Now, this could be global, might mean in your community. It might mean in your industry. It might mean taking care of the planet. Global is such a big word. So we pay attention 3 ways: personally, professionally, globally. It's about who deserves your attention, what deserves your attention, and how you pay attention in the world. And I think if people can get their head around that, it starts to help you sort the power of your own attention and where you're going to channel that.
Can we dig into who deserves your attention first?
Sure.
How do you decide that? I mean, at the surface level, it seems like it would be pretty simple, but I can tell you that when I begin to think about who gets my attention versus who probably warrants more of my attention, they don't always match. So how do you figure this out?
I think some of it is very internal. And so if you think about it, you have this really private, intimate circle. The people that you love deeply. Some people might have little people. Some people might have furry babies. Some people might have a partner that they share their life with. And so there's that intimate circle. Your most intimate circle is those who are truly closest to you. And I guarantee anyone listening to this, if they have a sick parent, a sick child, a sick pet, that becomes their focus of attention, because all they want to do is get them healed and helped and taken care of. So it doesn't matter how big a proposal or business meeting you have or what the member's saying on the phone. If you're worried about that person you love in your intimate circle, that's going to be a distraction, your focus and your attention. So it's very easy to see the people who are in your most intimate circle, right? But then you have a wider immediate circle, which is often the team members that you serve, your colleagues that you work with. Maybe that extends a little to the membership or the board that you serve. So I think what happens is we have to really give that high priority to the people who are in our intimate circle. And so that means too, sometimes we have to say no to that 5 o'clock meeting because we've made a commitment to someone else to be with them for a hot date or a soccer practice or a school dress rehearsal or whatever it is. And so what I've learned to understand whether this is really important to me or if they're important to me is we have a really simple question in my office. So when I'm crazy and traveling like a lunatic, like so many people do here, I'm sure who are listening to this, and traveling could be different things. Some people drive to work every day. Some people fly to work every day. It's the same in my world. It's still commuting, right? Mm-hmm. But when we're on that journey of travel, whatever it looks like for the people listening, sometimes it's challenging to make decisions around what's really important and who's really important. So the mantra that we have in my team is this: if it's not yes, it's no. Now, you may even want to write that down. I mean, it's kind of clever. If it's not yes, it's no. But like, it sounds crazy, but I want to explain this to you. How do you decide? So if my gut reaction isn't yes, that is a person I want to spend time with, or yes, that's an event I want to speak at, or yes, that's a board that I want to serve on their strategic retreat. When I'm especially at capacity, the team knows I don't want to live in the gray. If my instant reaction is not yes, it's no. Not, well, what about, let's see, how about, no, it's no. It's just no. And I think that's the challenge we have, because for so many of us, because we've chosen a service industry where we serve our membership, we serve the people that we care about, we've chosen a career that puts us in service of other people, it's really challenging for us to say no. So if you want to get better at this, have your own version of that mantra. If it's not yes, it's no. Now, it sounds so simple, but it's actually harder to do. It means you need to have parameters around who deserves your attention. And you may need to communicate that to your team. So if you have the luxury of an assistant or someone who supports you, you might say, like I do, here's the top 20 people in my life. Whenever they call, if they text, if they email, I need to know about that. I have my top 20 clients and advocates. And so everyone in my team, and by the way, I don't have a big team, they all know who are those priorities. So I think one exercise might be beneficial for people is, if you're in sales, say for example, you're the membership director and you're growing the membership of your association, who's the top 20 organizations you want to focus on to be able to recruit them into your organization, into your association? Or maybe who are the top 20 individuals that would be very influential, that if you could get them to become members of your association, they would be a great advocate for you and be a voice out into their own communities. Mm-hmm. So you want to understand and spend some time. I don't care if it's just 15 minutes, Kiki, but sit down and say, who's my top 20? Who's my top 20 in my intimate circle that really deserve my attention? And then schedule time to connect with them. There are literally, my mom's not going to listen to this podcast, I hope, but if she does, literally, I have Alexa set up to remind me to call my mom. I have calendar appointments in my Google Calendar to make sure that I reach out to people who are important to me. Because otherwise, you can literally get through to 6 o'clock at night and go, oh, I wonder what happened to today, right? And so I think if you believe that attention is important, your calendar will tell me how important you think those people are. Because if I have a look at your calendar, if I have a look at your cell phone on the most dialed calls or most text numbers, it'll tell me very quickly what's important to you and who's important to you.
Now, when I read your book, I immediately placed it in, like, it was one of my top favorites, and where I categorized it was for it's like Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
Essentialism. That
book, Graham's book, yes, of course.
And I'm trying to think of the other book that I was thinking of. Essentialism, Atomic Habits. Anyway, you get the gist. It was definitely something where it's like knowing your priorities, understanding how to really focus on the things that matter the most. And so you do this in a number of different ways. One thing you talk about is about how to sort of navigate and set up yourself for success, whether it's at your workspace or with your electronic devices. Can we talk a little bit more about that? I mean, because I love my space at home. Like I love my office setting at home. But I have to admit, sometimes I wonder if I have set myself up for success when I'm surrounded by all these beautiful books and all of these things that I like, and they distract me so much.
Yes.
So how can I set myself up for success?
Great. Well, just to answer something that Liz has mentioned in the chat, Laura's book is fantastic. So if people are looking for opportunities, about living your best life and designing the life that you want, Laura's work is fantastic. I definitely want to say yes, Liz, high five for that. Let's talk about devices first. Okay. Here's the challenge, I think. Some of us actually know life before email, because I may sound like I'm 5, but I am significantly older than that. And I remember life before email. I remember life before cell phones. Like, I remember my first cell phone, and it was not the one that I have now. That is for sure. And apparently I needed it for security, which is so not true, but whatever, I digress. The thing that happened, though, is those of us who have grown up with this technology, I think what's happened is we've made technology more important than people.
Mm-hmm.
When technology was introduced into our lives, there were no etiquette or boundaries created around the rules of engagement. And so people nowadays are constantly connected. We're living in this environment where we're connected 24/7, and we've created this expectation that that would be the way that we should do something. And one thing that you may know about me is I hate the word should. When you say you should do this, it's someone else's expectation. And I think what's happened is we haven't really decided what the rules are. So let me give you some of my best practices that I feel are really beneficial for devices. You may notice that I have a cover for mine, and the cover is not for the protection of the phone, it's protection for me. And so I'm not tempted then to see notifications. I've turned off every notification available. A lot of the time it's on silent mode, and very often I'll put it on airplane mode so that I can get some very focused work done. So the cover is so I don't look at it. It's also safer. I mean, one of the things that's super scared me was when I was doing the research for the book you held up, Attention Pays, I discovered that 9 people die every day because of distracted driving. I mean, Kiki, we're making it more important to update our Facebook status than pay attention to the road, which really freaks me out. And so I think that device management is about setting some guidelines, and that's actually tougher than you think it is, right? So one thing that I want to consider, I would love people to consider, is a cover of some kind, right? Or putting it out of sight. It could be placing it in your handbag or your glove compartment when you go for a drive, instead of just having it available and then answering things when we know we shouldn't be. I also have a bit of a rule that if I'm, say for example, you and I are having the privilege of having coffee live and we're sitting there together, I would keep my cell phone away. Now, if there was a reason that I needed to have it on the table, I would say to you, hey, Kiki, I'm waiting for a call from my husband because of A, B, and C. Do you mind if I leave my phone here? And so when the research that we also discovered was that there was a survey that was done, a study actually, where they were assessing whether we trust you or not based on the presence of your cell phone. And interestingly, in this survey, what they showed, I wish I could remember the name while we're talking, they showed that when people met and there was a cell phone on the table, they were less likely to trust the person on the other side. And that also kind of freaked me out when I thought about this. Now, it's not a super fancy survey, but it's very interesting from a premise point of view that what the person's also thinking is, well, your cell phone's more important than I am, and so they were less likely to listen, less likely to trust. And when you think about what we're trying to do in the world and change the world through the way that we serve our members, the way we serve our colleagues, the way we serve our family, the cell phone. And by the way, I am not a technology hater. I love that my cell phone allows me to FaceTime with my little nephew and get to see my sister in Sydney and do all these things. I love technology. I just feel like we need to put some boundaries into it. So one guideline that we have in my house is that before we enter our home, we have to finish all our conversations in the garage. Now, what that means is if I'm on a conference call, I finish it up and I have to sit in my garage sometimes for a longer time than I want, but I want to walk in the home and look my partner in the eye and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you. It's been a day or whatever. And I think if we could just have some simple parameters around our technology and our conversations, I feel like we would have even deeper relationships. But it means we have to start with us. Now, John is saying, I think it's Joe or John.
Moment app, right.
The Moment app. I have the Moment app on mine, and let me tell you, it'll freak you out. If you haven't installed the Moment app, it will tell you how long you're spending on your cell phone. Now, the latest iOS version does tell you screen time, and that will freak you out too, because it tells you by app how much time you're spending on everything. So if you're a parent or if you care for loved ones, if you install a Moment app, it will very quickly tell you how much time your devices are stealing from the attention of the people that you care about. So please know, I'm not a hater. I think technology is brilliant, and we literally can save the world through this device. We can change the world with this device. We just need to manage our attention accordingly.
Anne says, I hate that I have to go to a meeting, but I'm definitely going to buy your book, Neen. Thanks.
Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that so
have
much.
a good meeting. Yes. So we want to have a good meeting. Yeah. So one thing I can say that you also do superbly well, Neen, is in your presentations, you are masterful at when you meet people, you remember their names and you call them out during, you not call them out, but you will call on them, mention little things that tie into your presentations with their names throughout the whole thing. It's not one or two guys, it's like 10. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what I noticed immediately, and this was after the keynote I saw and then in the breakout session, what I noticed immediately was it caught everyone's attention. Boy, I tell you, if they were in the back of the room and you mentioned their name, oh, they're suddenly paying attention. And it became no one felt lost is what it was. People, there was a little bit of that, oh my gosh, we talked too, is she going to call on me? But it was also, wow, I'm recognized. Wow, he knows my name.
I've heard. So one of the questions from Levi is, are there any tricks to remembering names? And well, I can't give you any tricks. What I would suggest is that I remember forever ago, I read one of the best books, and I think it needs to be compulsory reading for everyone, so I'd encourage you to put it in the show notes. And it's an ancient book written in the early 1900s, and it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Ah, Dale Carnegie. Love it.
Love it. But here's what he says. Dale says this. He says, a person's name is the sweetest sound. And here's what I believe, is that where everyone wants to be seen and heard, I've already declared that, right? And so if you think about the easiest no-cost attention-grabbing strategy is use someone's name. It costs you nothing, but it causes you to be present. And so what I do, Kiki, is I will use your name several times when I first meet you to embed it in my brain. Now, here's the other thing. In an environment like that, what I know is the power of seeing people can also be demonstrated and magnified. And it's a little bit meta, I guess, but I'm trying to teach people the power of attention. Therefore, I have to role model attention. An easy way to pay attention is reference the conversations I've had with conference guests over the last 48 hours, and they feel so good and engaged. So it's also an engagement strategy. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage people to use it several times in the interaction. Also, too, if someone has a challenging name, ask them how to spell it, or how would they say that, spell it phonetically. Sometimes, too, because I always have a pen and a Post-it note, like always with me. And I'm a digital girl. I like to write things down, like very kinesthetic, I guess. And so I will write down your name, and there's something very powerful that happens in the brain when you write something down. It tells the brain that it's safe, and it tells it it's important. And so, but the act of writing things down, so you'll often see me doodling things or writing things down, and so that's very powerful to me. Some people can type things out, and that helps them remember, but for me, that doesn't seem to work the same. So one of the things, Levi, I would suggest is use the person's name several times. Write it down if you have the opportunity to do that. But sometimes, some of us still carry those old-fashioned things called business cards. And so I will ask for someone's card as well, and then I'll receive their card and say, do you mind if I write a note on your card? And then I have an actual artifact of our conversation, which makes it even easier for me because I'm so visual. I can see it. And you saw me do this in that circle. Sometimes I'll grab your name tag, and I'll say, how do you say that, Kiki? Because you have this beautiful name that sounds so much sexier when you say it than when I say it. But when you grab that and you see it, it puts it in your brain and goes, okay, this is kind of important. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love
so
that.
hopefully that answers that question for Lena.
Yeah. No, it's so fantastic because, you hit on the different ways to use your attention in personal life, in your professional life, to better the world. What about profitability? Everybody's always curious about, well, okay, this all sounds nice, but I mean, how's this going to equal increasing the bottom line?
How does attention really pay?
Let's talk about money, honey. Yeah.
Okay. Honey, I love money, and I figure even if you don't like money. If you don't like money, just give it away. Like, I'm so good with that. But the more that you pay attention, the more money you'll make. And here is how it's connected. If you think about, if you're trying to attract and retain the top talent in your association, then they're going to pay attention to what you're saying in the world and how they're treated in the onboarding, even in the interview process, right? So if you're trying to attract and retain the top talent, you need to show them how you're paying attention, not just on a local level, but on a global level as well. So you need evidence to support that. If you want to retain that talent and their attention by investing in their training and development and mentoring and onboarding and paying attention to them as an individual within your organization, they're going to feel like they are part of something bigger than themselves and want to contribute. Therefore, their productivity will increase, and they will obviously lead to more profitability because they will be very great advocates for you out in the world, not just talking about your association, but your industry and their experience. So you've got these walking billboards in our marketing terms that are then advocates for you that you're paying because you're paying their salary or their, whatever. But what they're doing is they're being that phenomenal source of advocacy, right? But also what I know to be true is that when we pay attention to our customers, our members, our patients, whoever it is that we serve in our association, they then stay with us. So when it comes time to renew their membership, they say, well, I felt like I got value from the education, I got value from the networking events, I feel like I can see myself and talk best practices with some of my colleagues, then yeah, sure, I'll just renew my membership. It's like it's not even a thought to them. And so that's an easy way to tie it in, because I work with so many different organizations. What I've seen with many of the ones that I've worked with, whether they're a large corporation or a small business, that they can attribute the fact that when they give that more personalized, customized attention, people want to stay with them and even sometimes add on services. So if you're in a role where add-on sales or increased membership opportunities, however you want to call it from a language point of view, you will find that that will increase if people feel like you see them and you hear them and you value them. But if an association just sends me my renewal notice with no kindness, with no reference to what they've done for me this year or anything I can look forward to in the new year, I think we take some of our members for granted and we just assume they will renew. But how about we set up easy ways to make attention pay is allocate someone on the team to start calling your members. If a member leaves, get someone to ask them why and could you help bring them back? I mean, there's so many ways we can get attention to pay, but I know that it increases productivity when people feel valued. It increases profitability when they feel like we see them and they want to continue to do business with us. But it also increases accountability because if I feel like you're paying attention to me, I feel accountable to you. I'm not going to necessarily cheat on you and go buy from a different brand or do something else because I want to be doing business with you, right? Yeah. I've overpaid for things because I don't want to leave that particular relationship. I mean, there's so many people listening to this who are probably brand loyal to skincare or a vacation property or whatever it is because there's an experience that is created for you where you feel like you were seen, you were heard, you were valued. See, it's not just about attention. Yeah. It's that intentional attention. It's about the choices we make and the actions we take. That's the
intentional attention.
Intentional attention.
John says texts, personal emails, work emails, voicemails, Facebook messages, snaps, any tips on how to maintain and build relationships in spite of so many opportunities to drop the ball?
John, it may sound old-fashioned, but I still rely on my calendar. And so for me, I believe in time blocking. So time blocking to me is allocating, in my world, it's 15 minutes. So let me give you an example, John. I do what's called a social media drive-by every day. Now, here's what my drive-by looks like. I my coffee or my green juice, depends on my matcha, often it's early in the morning. So whatever it is that I'm drinking. And for 15 minutes, I do a drive-by all social media platforms. So I do Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I don't Snap. It's just, I'm told. Instagram. And what I'm doing in that 15 minutes is I'm commenting, posting, retweeting, adding to conversation, writing a recommendation for someone, endorsing a particular product, doing some research on a client, whatever it is. Now, the reason that I limit it to 15 minutes, because it's about how long it takes me to drink my coffee and enjoy it. But what I'm doing is fully engaging across all social media platforms. And John, the reason that I restrict it to 15 minutes is because, believe me, I would happily spend spend all day watching Instagram videos of cats that are playing happily, but that's not going to grow my business. It's not going to serve my clients, and it's certainly not going to help me do what I need to do in the world. So one thing I would suggest is if you can time block, associate an activity. It's called making time and time. Associate an activity you would do every day with another way to build those relationships. So that's how I handle social media. When it comes to developing deeper relationships for, say, the commercial side of what I do, I have what I call an advocate program. Here's how that works. It's a simple spreadsheet. It's but it has 20 people that I would love to be able to advocate for me or be advocates who are current advocates. And so I make an appointment every month to reach out to my top 20 advocates. Sometimes I send them a book, sometimes an article, sometimes a TED Talk, sometimes it's a podcast I did like this. This is the perfect podcast for me to share with my association clientele. But what I'm doing, John, is I have an appointment in my calendar that says it's time to reach out to your advocates this month. And then I track in the spreadsheet what I send them, and you can do it through HubSpot or any CRM system. It's not super fancy. I mean, HubSpot is our CRM, and it's easy. Even I can use it. But what I find is if you can do something that feels easy, that you are going to be likely to repeat, start there. It could be a to-do list. It could be a spreadsheet. It could be a written out list, whatever works for you. But what I would love you to think about is there is a human being on the end of that email. There is a human being in that networking event. They're the people that you want to connect with, not what they can do for you or who they are or what their title is. There is a brilliant book by my friend Erin Gargan. If you haven't had her on your show, she is a delight. Oh my God, you would love her. And your listeners would love her too. But she wrote this fantastic book ages ago called Digital Persuasion. And John, you may want to look it up because she has this powerful phraseology. But one of the things that she does is she talks about how to get people's attention in 10 words. So you can see why we're so aligned. She's adorable. She's smart. I love her. And so Erin Gargan is her name. You guys may want to look her up and you may want to put her in the show notes. But I think that when it comes to building relationships, John, I'm still all about good old-fashioned, like, get to know you stuff. And I know there's ways you can automate this, and I know that you could probably make it a lot simpler than I do, but I still believe in human touch.
I think that it makes you wildly more effective. You know, I know Stacy wrote, but what about automation is that not just feigned attention. I find it disingenuous. And I think so many of us, there's a difference between getting information, which I appreciate. I've subscribed to a number of different newsletters that I actually really enjoy. Like
Sure.
Five Bullet Friday from Tim Ferriss. Awesome. You know, like I
Easy.
love that.
Yes, easy.
Super simple. But the personal touch, you know, you reaching out to me is going to always be so much more effective than if it's part of, you know, a letter that's gone out to everyone, a bulk mailing where it's like, I feel like it doesn't matter if I pay attention or not because you won't know. You don't, you know.
And I think some of it's the delivery mechanism. So I still write handwritten notes. I'm still an old-fashioned girl. I carry stamp stationery with me everywhere. I write handwritten notes to people because I believe in that. But what was interesting to me, and there's a couple of newsletters, Anne Handley has a great newsletter called Total Anarchy. And she wrote this fabulous book called Everybody Writes.
Yeah.
So she's a brilliant writer. But I love her newsletter because it looks like an email. It's full of links. It's always on a Sunday. I sit there and I absorb it. Like, I love it because it appeals to me. Erin also has a great newsletter. I used to do a newsletter that was really pretty and fancy and had all the MailChimp, you know, blah-de-blah. And then a friend who is in digital marketing challenged me just to write a note. Like, just write a note to the people that followed me and just write it like an email and just have a chat. Oh my goodness, it blew my mind when I wrote just a very honest, hey, here's some things I'm paying attention to. Here's what got my attention this week. The response was out of the 12. And I'm still doing it through MailChimp. So it's still a level of automation, people who've agreed to sign up. And I don't add people to my list. If you want to do it, you can do it, but I don't add anyone. And it was really lovely. So I just thought, this is so much easier than it's just like you and I chatting. And so it's the same way I wrote the book. It's like if you and I were chatting over a glass of champagne, Kiki, that hopefully is what you got from that book. And so I feel like a phone call, yes, yes, yes. So whoever said, was it Reese? I can't see, it has shocked your name off. The beauty of a personal phone call. So here's the thing I would suggest to people. Think about your attention in 15-minute increments. 15 minutes for a social media drive-by, 15 minutes to answer email, 15 minutes to write 2 handwritten notes, 15 minutes to call a loved one. If your mum is still on this planet and you're fortunate to have your mum around, call your mum, And if you don't have your mum, call someone who reminds you of your mum and just say thanks. But 15 minutes to make a phone call to a member to say, hey, thanks for being a member. That's the only agenda for my call. Thanks for being a member with us. Maybe it's 15 minutes to thank a board member. Thanks for serving on our board. Gosh, we really appreciate you. Maybe it's 15 minutes to thank a sponsor for being so active in the community. These are powerful ways to pay attention.
I love that, because when you said that, I just want everyone who's listening right now to think about how you felt when she was talking about just calling and saying, I just wanted to call and say thank you for being a member. And I had this, it was like this breath of fresh air that just like flooded through, like a relief. It was such a relief that there wasn't something that was wanted, that you weren't asking for something, whether it was feedback or whatever.
Yes.
Have time
to make me do a survey.
We're just going to ask you 2 questions or whatever. What if it was just like, thank you?
People are shocked, by the way, when you do this, just as a heads up, because I do it to my clients all the time. I'll call them and say, hey, thanks for being a client. And they're like, okay. I'm like, no, that's it. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, I just want to say thanks. I love doing work with your team. Thank you for letting me help you achieve those results. Literally, there's an initial shock, which is really fun.
I kind of love that. I think that's my takeaway today. I think maybe I just need to do that.
Yeah, and just block it in your calendar. And imagine this. Yeah. If you just called one person every day, right? And we kept it even in business days. By the end of the month, you've called 20 people just to say thanks, right?
So
and when you think about that, that's not a lot of hours you've invested, but yet the profitability, the productivity, the accountability, all the things we talk about in our book, it's all there.
Yes. Well, I hate to have to bring this to a close, but you are a woman in demand. And so with that, I want to thank you, Neen, for joining us today. You guys, I am requesting desperately, I'm going to beg and ask her that she comes back for a part 2. But I want to thank you for joining us today. And I want to thank all of you. I hope that you all learned something special today. And until next time, everyone, keep asking questions to learn every day. As Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Neen, where can people find you?
The fortunate thing for all of us is there's only one Neen James. So if you Google me, you'll find me. If you really want to see my adventures, follow me on Instagram. Obviously, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn, and I would be honored to come back again. Thank you for inviting me.
Woo!
Serve you all, and the chat has been fun to watch as everyone's getting involved. But one thing I do want to say to you is thank you for the work that you do in the world. Thank you for the way that you serve your community, you take care of your sponsors. It's a pure delight to be part of this, and I can't wait to do it again. Let's get it on the schedule.
Well, thanks for listening to Association Chat, produced by Kiki L'Italien. For more information on Association Chat, go to associationchat.com.